So now let's look at why you would add debt. Okay, so if I look at a profitable company, say like Apple, Microsoft, why would they ever want to add debt? They don't need to. They could run it straight on equity. They don't, or any company for that example. The main reason is that adding debt for certain companies will actually improve the return on equity for a company. And the best way to show this is let's look at it at a personal level. So if you're going to buy a house, we can buy the house with debt or we can buy a house without debt. Most people would prefer to buy a house without debt. No mortgage makes things sound much better. Okay, so let's look at comparing the two. Okay, so if we buy a house for $500,000, it's the same house. The only two different scenarios we're looking at is how are we going to finance it. In the case with no debt, we will have no mortgage. So which is a scenario most people would like. In the case of debt, we will have a mortgage of $400,000. So what is the down payment that we would have to put for this house? And in another way of putting the down payment is what is our investment? In the case of the no mortgage, I have to invest $500,000 to pay for the house. In the case of the mortgage, I only need to put down $100,000, and I'm going to take the rest from the bank. Okay, now what ends up happening a year from now? Let's suppose things go well, and next year the house prices increase by 10%. Okay, so not unusual. House prices go up time to time. So now the house is worth $550. Regardless of how we finance it, the house will go up by the same amount. Now, what's our profit on this house? So the profit is going to be $50,000 in both cases. So there's no difference. And what is the return? Which, if you look at this profit, this is essentially 10%. Okay, which is this number here. The 500,000 went up by 10%. But what is our return on our investment? In this case, the return on the investment is the 50 that we made plus our investment of 500, which is 10%. Okay, same as the price increase. However, in this case, it's 50, but our investment was only 100. We borrowed the rest from the bank, so it's plus 50%. So you can see how big an increase we have in our return on investment. And this is for a company like the return on equity. Okay, so if I look at a profitable company, say if they made a profit next year, the company that had debt would have a much higher return on equity. And that's the return that shareholders want to maximize, because that's the return on their shares. Now, I've oversimplified it. There's no taxes, haven't talked about interest. That'll have a little bit of an impact, but not dramatic. You can see it went from 10 to 50. So why don't we all just load up with debt? Two reasons. Number one is it's risky, but why is it risky? It's because you could have the exact opposite result. So debt amplifies profits and losses. So if this thing went the other way and you lost 10%, then the person who had the heavy mortgage lost 50% of their investment. And the same thing for a company, their return on equity would be quite low as a result of that.